S. Chan presents Educational Video Lectures. Difficult concepts made easy. Study anywhere, anytime.
Being human, almost all our works depend on communication. And if communication fails, what are the reasons for that? The first reason is the barriers to communication. We need to identify if there are any barriers in communication.
If you want to study these topics in detail, refer to these books from Vikas Publishing House. Link is provided in the description box.
I'm Dr. Divyabha. I would be presenting barriers to communication from the communication skills. Welcome to S. Chand Academy. So if we talk about what are the barriers to communication, before that we need to know what is communication, how do we communicate, and what are the things which are involved in communication. Then only we'll be able to identify those barriers, and we will be able to, after the identification of those barriers, we will be able to suggest some actions what could be done to overcome those barriers. So what is the purpose of communication? Are we communicating with some purpose? Yes, to connect with people, communication is important. And if we have some information and we want to disseminate that information, yes, we do need communication for that. And some emotions, some thought, feelings, ideas, generation of ideas, all these things are there with us, but we need somebody to talk about it. We need somebody to discuss that. While discussing that, communication happens. For that purpose also we are communicating. We are communicating to link with people. We believe that this is a community where we are talking to each other, and while talking to each other we are making some connections with others for other purposes also. So communication is required, and the purpose of communication, the best and foremost reason of communication is to exchange ideas, information and thoughts. When we know that these are the purposes of communication, do we know what kind of barriers are there and what exactly the barrier means in communication? There are barriers, you must have seen on roads that there are barriers, but what is the barrier in communication? Or there is nothing of such sort, it is just a myth. This is a reality, and if it is a reality, we need to identify. First thing, communication is essential for the smooth functioning of in any organization. We need the effective communication, smooth communication, free-flowing communication. That is there, but various barriers are there which are actually impediment in the process of communication. What is that, and what is the problem with the barriers? If there are barriers, it can be. What is the problem? The problem comes when we know that these are the barriers, to eradicate those barriers and so that effective communication can take place. And there is a problem that misunderstanding can be created. There is a problem that conflicts can be created. And because of conflict, reduced productivity is there in the organization. Just to take care of these things, we need to identify barriers. So when we talk about if barriers are there, then what are those barriers and any types of barriers are there? So primarily 4 kinds of barriers are there. Those sub barriers are also being identified, and people are working on it, and the organizations are supposed to work on those barriers to overcome those barriers and effectively use the communication. First barrier is physical barrier. Then we talk about semantic barriers are also there. We are talking about organizational barriers. After this, 4th barrier is cultural barrier. In all these 4 barriers, these are the main barriers. Under this, sub barriers would be existing. We will talk about first what is physical barrier. If we think there is any kind of physical barrier which is available, there are multiple types of barriers. What is physical barrier? First thing, this is the physical barrier which refers to obstacle that hinder communication due to environmental or distance reason. So if environmental reasons are there, then what are those environmental reasons? If we talk about noise, do you consider noise as one of the barriers, physical barriers? Yes, noise is one of the barriers. If you think that you can communicate well or effective communication can take place, where you are supposed to take the feedback from people, where you are supposed to take some decisions on the basis of that communication, and a lot of noises around. For example, traffic is there. For example, apart from traffic, there are crowded places. In manufacturing industry, there is a noise which is coming from machines. So if you think any effective communication can take place, you are mistaken at that point of time. You need to identify that barrier and you must overcome this barrier. What are the reasons and how can we overcome these barriers? I'll just talk about it. So the transmission of message can cause misunderstanding also. I am not able to hear what other person is saying, or maybe I am supposed to take action quickly, but hearing is not proper, that listening is not proper, but I have taken the action on that. Multiple accidents have taken place and they usually take place in manufacturing industries because of the noise pollution and because of the noise barrier in the organization. We need to overcome that. We will talk about it, how we can overcome. First, we need to understand other barriers, other physical barriers also. So the next barrier we will talk about technological barrier. Poor network connection, must have seen a lot of times during the pandemic. Students were saying, I can't hear you, ma'am, I cannot listen to you, I cannot respond. In online classes, this was something which you also must have seen and experienced, that technical glitches were there and networking issues were there. Because of networking, you were not able to attend your classes properly. So these are the technological barriers which generally happens because of poor network connectivity and unfamiliarity with the technology. This also can happen. So many of the teachers have just identified how to work on systems rather than they have been teaching in classrooms before that, and after this they could understand, they were able to understand, and somehow they were taking some time also to understand what are these technologies and how they are working, especially in classroom teachings. So that took place. It took a little while to understand, and sometimes it happens that I'm unfamiliar with some of the technologies. I'm supposed to use it. While using it, and then also in the misconduct, barriers could take place. After this, distance. For example, if I need to talk to you, if I need to discuss something with you, and you are standing somewhere far from me, and when you are standing somewhere, when you are far from me, it is difficult for me to raise my voice so much so that it reaches to you and you can give me feedback and I can take the action on it. So distance could be one of the reasons. If you are not in that particular state, particular place where I am sitting and we are communicating, then also one thing, I am trying to tell you something, but the correct medium I have not taken. For example, I need to tell you something and on that action has to be taken immediately. But I am taking the way or the medium as writing some message to you and then sending a letter. You are getting that post in some time and then you are sending that reply after some time. So it is taking a lot of time. That medium I could not choose well, and that is the reason why communication is showing this distance as one of the barriers. So there are ways how to overcome and these barriers. First thing, if you think that technological barrier is there, we'll start with the noise barrier. So if machineries are there, traffic is there, just try and find out a place where which is a quieter place where you can the environment is also conducive for discussion. You need to find out, then only important decisions should be done. And if you think that other person cannot understand me or cannot listen to me properly because of this noise barrier, try to take some time and do not be in hurry. Try to take some time, go somewhere which is a quieter place for and conducive environment for the decision making. And next thing is, if at all you are using some technological aspects also, it is important to be familiar in first instance and then only go forward. And video conferencing is one of the ideas to be taken up to avoid barriers for technological issues and distance issues and for noise also. So if you think that these things are the impediment in your communication, you must recognize it and try to remove it as much as possible. So we'll take a short break here, and whatever we have done so far, I'll just tell you. First thing, there is a purpose of communication, and when we are communicating, certain barriers are there. If there are barriers, how many types of barriers we have already studied, and we have already studied one more thing, that is one kind of barrier, that is physical barrier, and what are the things which are involved in physical barriers. So we'll get back in some time.
Now quality learning is easily available at your doorstep. S. Chand Academy brings detailed lectures based on UGC curriculum as per the New Education Policy 2020. So do not forget to subscribe to the S. Chand Academy and access the wide world of knowledge conveniently sitting within the comfort of your home. Stay connected and keep watching S. Chand Academy. Happy learning!
Welcome back to S. Chand Academy. So we have covered one kind of barriers, 3 more barriers are left. So we'll consider second barrier now, which is called the semantic barriers. What is the meaning of semantic barriers? First thing, semantic barriers generally involve language kind of barriers. So language related barriers. Generally, if we talk about, a lot of languages are spoken in India, worldwide. So when these are the languages, a lot of people are speaking different languages, and even if not different language, different dialects are being used for the same language. So in that context, generally barriers come, and what are those barriers? These barriers are called semantic barriers. So what kind of barriers are these? Generally a language difference is there, then a lot of barriers are created in the communication, especially nothing specific comes out when you know the different language and I know a different language. We are speaking in our own language, there is no communication between us. So it is important for any kind of communication, 2 persons are important. One is the speaker, the other one is receiver. If receiver is not understanding my things and they are not being able to give the feedback, communication fails then and there. So if languages are different, then misinterpretation, and even if language is not different, then different aspects are also there, which is called jargons. I am using the same language, the other person is also using the same language, but I am using jargons in my language, like sports metaphors. I am using certain metaphors. If I say that there was a discussion going on and it was a googly for me. If I say it was a googly for me, I know what is the meaning of it. Maybe other person cannot understand it. What is the meaning of it? If I say it was a googly for me, means it was something which goes overhead. I could not understand things well. So you should not use sports metaphor. You should not use industry specific word. You should not use technical words while communicating. These are the barriers which comes when, and it creates misunderstanding. It creates when it is not a familiar communication, familiar language is not being used, it creates such environment where decision making is difficult. How to strategize this if something of such sort is happening? Linguistic barrier is there. I know different language, you know different language. Choose a common language for communication, and that is the reason why English came into existence, because a lot of people were talking different languages. So it became one language where everybody could speak and communicate rather than speaking their own language. So communication, while just find out one language for communication, keep it very, very simple so that what you are saying others can understand it easily. It is not something where you need to showcase your linguistic abilities, especially in communication when actually you are asking for the feedback. And linguistic ability can be shown in other senses, not for communication, day-to-day communication, where a lot of decision making is taking place in the organizations. And encourage feedback to ensure mutual understanding. It is very, very important aspect. I have said something, others are understanding it or not, how would I get to know? So it is always better to counter ask questions, whether you understood it or not. it is always better, rather than asking questions, when you are answering that, at least non-verbal communication is taking place. So they are either nodding their head that yes, they could understand it, or maybe they are asking themselves some questions and then you are answering it. You get that the feedback is getting well, that means they have understood and there is no chance of misunderstanding. And it is always better when you are communicating or you are listening to others, always ask for clarification. If you ask for clarification, there is no such kind which is called barrier in communication. So it is no harm in asking question. Next kind of barrier is organizational barriers. So organizational barriers are generally because of the structural benefits of the organization, and sometimes it is a procedural issue that I need to send some approvals to somebody, and I think that I am supposed to send it to my immediate boss, whereas I was supposed to send it to finance. So there are some structural issues also in the organizations, and that is the reason why these barriers came into existence. First thing is hierarchy. In this also, organizational barrier, hierarchy is one thing. A rigid hierarchy, in some of the organization they actually follow rigid hierarchy, and that discourage open communication. They feel that I can only talk to my immediate boss, I cannot talk to somebody else in the organization. They might not take it the way they have to take it, or sometimes you are communicating with them only for the benefit of the organization. Maybe certain problems you are facing, but you do not talk to them because you feel that they'll judge you. So that open communication is not there in the organization. That is the reason why most of the employees face this problem of hierarchy and communication barrier. And then next thing is lack of feedback. You have done a good work in the organization. Somebody is not given you any kind of feedback, whether you have done good or bad. So when you are not getting the feedback on your work, neither you will improve this or change it or modify it. So if you are not doing well, somebody should tell you that these are the things which did not go well and you need to improve, and these are the areas of improvement. Sometimes you have done very well,
Nobody has appreciated you for that, and you are stagnant and you are not changing your strategy.
so when you are not changing yourself, that comes one of the organizational barrier. It actually somehow it does not help your employees to work better or to improve in any of the ways. So individual may feel unheard, unengaged at times. They do not know what to work, and sometimes it is based on biasness also in organization. People have their own biases. I have a team which is working very well, so next time also I'll take them only as one of the teams to do the work, because I know they are working well in the organization. Maybe others are there, those who are working very well, but they are not a part of your team, but you have never recognized them because you have your own biases. At times this also happens that because of biases, you don't feel like to listen to others, and it generally happens in organizations that people are not ready to take any kind of controversy or maybe any kind of displeasure on their behalf. They want people to align with their thoughts all the time. They do not want somebody to contradict their point. So if you should be, first thing, you should be open for that. If somebody is contradicting, try and listen to them. Maybe better solution would come out. If you are not doing that, maybe it happens that whatever feedback you are getting, it is just because you are biased. They are also biased for you. They are comfortable in your company and they do not want to contradict because you don't like it. So how to overcome this? First thing, establish open door policies in the organization. So if you have any issues, please do come to us. We will try and resolve your problem. Second thing, encourage feedback at all levels. Everybody, whether it is good or bad, feedback has to be given for the encouragement or for the improvement of your employees. Next, to promote cultural transparency and collaboration, it is important. Everybody should be entertained in the organization. No one should have any biasness in the organization. If you feel that certain kind of biasness is happening in the organization, that organization will not give chance to grow to the employees. Then we have one more kind of barrier which is called cultural barrier. What is that cultural barrier? It can lead to misinterpretation. Cultural barrier, people are from different background, from different culture, different mindset. So when you are coming together and working together, there should not be any bias, there should not be any barrier in cultural differences. If at all it is there, it generally mislead to decision making, and especially in multicultural environment. You are talking about multinational companies, you are talking about multicultural companies. When all these things and all these people are coming together and working together, there has to be one platform, similar platform for everyone. There should not be any disparity on the base of caste, creed, religion and gender. So such kind of disparity should not be there. If we talk about cultural barrier, so generally non-verbal communication and verbal communication take place. So if non-verbal communication, sometimes in some of the organizations, they have different kind of expressions, body language. They have, you must have seen in South Asian countries, they bow rather than shaking hands. So they feel comfortable in that. And Indians, we feel comfortable in very closer spaces. So if such kind of, it's not that I'm telling somebody to come and hug me, it's that my culture says that it is okay, I'm okay in confined places also. I'm okay when people are close to me, and I can work well when I have lot of friends around. So this is all about the kind of culture I have developed in. So facial expressions, body language have different meanings across all the religions, all the cultures. So we need to keep in mind what kind of culture the other person is carrying. Second is communication style. It can be direct or indirect communication style, or varying level of formalities that impact message. Sometimes I feel that I'll tell or I give some instructions verbally, they'll work. Sometimes I feel that I need to write, and then only communication can take place and people will work. So it is all about direct communication, indirect communication, how people work. You need to find out whether they are working well in that also. No. Sometimes they do not understand. If I am saying something verbally, people do not understand it, do not take it the way it has to be done. If we are not telling them how it has to be done, that means the sometimes verbal communication is not taken as direct communication. So we need to take it as non-verbal, as verbal communication to the writing, and when we are writing, people take it as direct communication. The work has to be done in an effective manner. That is the goal, that is the reason why we are working together. So we need to keep in mind strategy. What we need to do, we need to develop cultural sensitive trainings. If we feel that proper trainings are required for this to make
the organization culturally sensitive.
We must conduct such trainings also. Everybody should be on a same pace. Nobody should be allowed, especially in India. I've seen a lot of people show disparity on the basis of regions. So somebody is coming from that particular state, should not be entertained properly. They do not know how to work. So such kind of biasness should be avoided. And then educate individuals about different communication. What are the different communication? Verbal, non-verbal, direct, non-direct communication. They should be acquainted with all these things. And then practice active cross-cultural communication. How we can do it? India is a diverse country, and a lot of cultures are being merged. People should know how to discuss and how to celebrate all the festivals. So it is all about celebrity. So if we are celebrating a lot of festivals together, people will come closer and they will understand the cultural background of somebody and cultural importance of somebody. So it is important to make your organization cultural sensitive. After all these parameters, there are other biases, other barriers also, which you will identify. It is important to identify the barriers. Sometimes I do not have habit of listening to others. So I feel that I know everything. So these are the barriers which I am creating myself. These are intrapersonal barriers. I know these are the problems that I do not want to listen to others. I feel that I know everything. I do not want to know about anything else from others. So These are the barriers which I know I need to identify, I need to overcome. There is a difference between hearing and listening. People say, yes, I'm hearing. I'm hearing means I can hear all the sounds which are in the surroundings. When I'm listening to you, I'll be able to give you feedback on listening. And so it is important. You need to understand all kinds of biases, all kinds of barriers. So there are tips for effective communication which is free from any kind of barriers. So first is create an atmosphere of mutual trust and mutual cooperation. So whatever you say, maybe direct communication, indirect communication, feedback I'll give, and I'll be able to work on the instructions given by my seniors. Choose most appropriate medium. It's not that I am writing a letter and waiting for 5 days to get the response. It is always better to find out the best medium to communicate then and there, so that, and there are verbal and there are communication which are formal and which are informal, or maybe something informal communication where grapevine takes place. Rumors are being spread easily through grapevine communication. So we do not want that to happen. If I feel that written messages where authenticated signatures are there should be circulated everywhere for giving the authenticity authenticity of communication, we can do that rather than giving any direct communication to anyone. Keep the target audience in mind. If I feel that people are not of that caliber, they can understand whatever I want to tell you, please come down on your level, on your linguistic ability to make them understand what you want to say. Do not communicate when mentally disturbed or emotionally charged. I am not well today, I am disturbed, and then I am taking very important decisions in the organization. I should avoid it, because these decisions are actually on the basis of my mental state at that time. So whenever you are emotionally charged, either very happy or very sad, please do not take any decisions at that time. Keep in mind cultural, social background of people while communicating with them, and fashion your message in such a way that everybody could relate to it, irrespective of caste, culture and background. Ensure that transfer stations are minimum in communication. Transfer stations, like I have told you something and you are supposed to communicate to others, then you also find out some medium to communicate that thing further. So minimum station should be there for communication. There will not be any chance of distortion of the message at that time. Then use appropriate body language in oral communication. If body language is negative, however your message is very positive, people will not take it and people will not respond to it. Then suitable format. If written messages are there, there is a proper format of memorandum, there is a proper format of notices, there is a proper format of emails. If you are not following those formats, that means your communication is somewhere giving you some hurdles for others to understand it. Next, analyze the feedback and change the strategy if necessary. So why feedbacks are important? Feedback is important for decision making, and in decision making, if feedback is not coming
appropriately as you wanted,
you can change your strategy. You have the time to change the strategy and then redo the work so that it is relatable to everyone. To conclude, barriers to communication, we have understood what are the barriers in communication, what types of barriers are there in communication, how to overcome, how to strategize your messages to make them very comfortable for everyone and relatable to everyone. I would like to conclude by saying barriers to communication are diverse, and it can significantly hinder in effective interaction with your employees, with people you are interacting with, with your team workers. By recognizing these barriers and implementing this strategy to overcome these barriers, that would help individuals and organizations to overcome. If there are any challenges in the organization, you will be able to handle them nicely, you will be able to handle them effectively, and after the feedback, efficient feedback, you will be able to modify and change whatever is required in the organization for the decision making and for other purposes. The growth is important, but barriers you need to identify first.
If you want to study these topics in detail, refer to these books from Vikas Publishing House. Link is provided in the description box. If you found our video interesting, Please like, share and subscribe. And do not forget to press the bell icon.
All rights reserved. This video has been prepared for educational purposes only. No part of it may be reproduced or copied without the permission of the copyright holder.